Okay, just as there is a law of sines, we will now be dealing with the law of cosines. Does not look the same as law of sines. It is very different as far as plugging things in. So you want to make sure that you are ready and you're paying attention. Okay, what are the formulas for law of cosines? And I'm going to put up at the top comma Heron's formula. All right. Okay. It is a longer formula. It is a little harder to plug in your calculators. When I'm done writing this down, I'm going to have you take out your calculators, and if you do not have them, actually, let's just do it now. The first person in each group, in each row, if you will please pick them up. If you do have them, just let them know. They do not need to pick one up for you. Don't forget, you do want to start bringing your own if you have one. Will you have me one as well? Bless you. Okay, everyone have one on their desk. Whether it's yours or mine, you have one on your desk. Yes? They didn't pick one up for you? Or Austin?
I thought I had a representative for my line.
I know, that's what I thought.
She swooped on all of them.
Here you go.
Oh, she did? That's really nice. I'm sorry, I take that back.
All right. A squared equals B squared plus C squared, not an equals, that's a minus, minus 2BC cosine of A. What is up with me today? Cosine of A. Okay, yes, that looks very complicated, a lot to memorize. We'll talk about easy ways to memorize it. Okay, so B squared plus C squared minus, now all of this is being multiplied. In order of operations, you know you multiply all this together before adding and subtracting, yes? You learned that back in like what, 5th, 6th grade? Order of operations. You're going to multiply, you're going to simplify 2 times B times C times the cosine of A, and then subtract it from the sum of B squared plus C squared. All right. The way I remember it is if there's angle A here, it's going to be A squared on this side. And are there any A's in here for the side lengths? Okay, so cosine angle A, side A squared, and then side BC's here. So on the next one, when I put little b squared, knowing what we know, what's going to be at the end? Cosine of what? Cosine of B equals, will I start with the b squared? A squared plus C squared, because I cannot use the B anymore. I've already used it beginning and end, minus 2 what? AC. I'm going to have you write the third one. There is one more with the cosine of C, and see if you can write it from the pattern that you see here. Do we have it? A volunteer? Tell us what it is. You guys are half asleep still? Yes.
C squared equals B squared plus C squared.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. C squared equals, and I didn't hear this piece. A squared plus
B squared minus 2AB cosine C.
All right, do you guys agree with her? Good job, thank you. All right, so this is something you will need to work on memorizing. Do you agree if you know the formula, they're all the same? So you memorize one, and you remember how the letters work, and you're good. All right. Examples. Number 1, solve. And we know how to solve the triangles. Little a equals 45. Little c equals 20. And angle B equals 47. Okay. Remember when we talked about law of sines? You're going to use law of sines when you have an angle and its matching side. I have side A. Do I have angle A? I have side C. Do I have angle C? I have angle B, but I'm missing what? Side B. So do you see how we cannot use law of sines here? Law of sines we talked about on block day that you need like angle A and side A, or angle B and side B, or angle C and side C, so that you can set up your proportions. Got it? Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. We're going to draw our triangle. Remember, it is not a right triangle. What was that? Oh, we... Oh, okay. So she's saying, can we use a squared plus b squared equals c squared? Is that what you're saying? To find the missing side?
No, I was saying you do not graph it.
Oh, can we? You do not have to. You can just plug things in. I graph it for those that are visual. I still want to see your setup, angle A, angle B, angle C, but yes, that's fine. All right. Little a is 45. Little c is 20, and angle B is 47 degrees. Angle A, angle B, angle C. Little a, little b, little c, and fill in the given information. All right, so I misunderstood earlier her question, and I thought she was asking, could we use Pythagorean's theorem? So I'm going to pose that question now. Can we use Pythagorean's theorem here to find side B? Why not? It's not a right triangle. At least it's not stated that it is a right triangle. We don't know that it is. All right. Questions on just the setup so far? Okay. Shall we start? Where shall we start? Looking for angle A, looking for side B, looking for angle C. It's easiest when you're using this formula to find the sides. So shall we start with the side length first? Okay, starting with the side length, what is the only side length that we're missing? B. So what I would suggest you do is cover up this and see if you can write down the formula from memory. When we just wrote it down, if we're dealing with side B, we're going to be using a cosine of B, right? So I know I'm going to have cosine of B at the end. And what am I going to have at the beginning? B squared. And then what's going to come here? A squared plus C squared. And what comes next? Plus, minus, times, minus 2AC. Check your formula. Does that match? Yes? All right, so do that when you're doing your homework. Just try to write this from memory so that you get that practice and you have it ready. All right, what are we looking for? B. So that's the part that's going to stay the variable. B squared equals little a squared. So what do I put in that spot? 45 squared plus side C squared, which is 20 squared minus 2 times 45 times 20 times cosine of 47. Yes? Instead of law of sines? Okay. I don't know if you heard it when I said it a second ago. Does anybody remember what I said on how we can tell we're not going to use law of sines? Can you tell us? Who was willing to tell us? Yes. Good. And we don't have that here. She's saying need a corresponding angle inside, like angle A and side A, or angle B and side B, so that we can set up the proportions like we did here. And you see in the given information we had angle A and side A, and that's the one I used right, where is it at, right here? Sine of 35 over 15. And same thing on the second one. It's not always going to be A and A, it just happened to be in notes. Angle A and side A, and that's what I used right here, sine of 38 over 17. And since on this one we noticed we didn't have, like we had side A but no angle A, side C but no angle C, angle B but no side B. So we couldn't use law of sines. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so here, these nice handy dandy calculators, it's really nice because the older ones were harder to plug in, but these you can just plug in as you see it. 45 squared, and like literally just type in 45, your squared key is here if you didn't know it. And then plus 20 squared, I will plug it in with you. So 45, your squared key, plus 20, your squared key. I'm gonna pause here. Is anyone using one my calculator? Is it when you hit the squared key, it gives you like an arrow, or is it not? Is it not working for anyone when you plug it into one of my calculators? It's working for everyone. If it's not, go to mode and make sure you're highlighted on the left-hand side for classic. If you're not highlighted on classic, it's going to do something a little funky. So go to make sure you highlighted everything on the left. Okay, 45 squared plus 20 squared minus 2. I used parentheses when I wrote it on paper, but I'm not going to use it in the calculator. I'm just going to use my multiplication key. All right, I just use parentheses on paper so it's easy to see. So times, what is it, 45 times 20 times cosine of what? 47, hit equals, and you end up with a really big number. Anyone else have that really big number? Yeah? All right. Do not round this number in your calculator. If you write it on your paper like this, b squared equals 1197.40, I would not put a 3, I would put a 2 dot dot dot. Because say it is a really long number and you don't want to write the whole thing down, that's okay. All I ask is that you do not do what with your calculator? Don't round, don't clear it, and then put a rounded answer in your calculator. Got it? Okay, I'm going to show you another way after this and how to do it. I want to do what with this because look at here, I'm looking for b and this is b squared. What do I do to both sides? Square root. So what do I want to do with that big number in the calculator? Square root it. And did we talk already about how to square root a number that's already in your calculator so you don't have to retype it out? Did we talk about that? No? Okay, you hit second. Square root key is right above your x squared key. And your calculator is blinking. What do you want me to take the square root of? You can retype it. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a really long number and you don't want to make any mistakes, you hit second. And down here on your negative key, there's an A and S for answer. So you're telling the calculator, hey, take the square root of the last answer, the last number I have. And then hit equals, and it'll take the square root of that last number for you. You do not have to retype it all back in. Got it? Hit equals, and now we round to the 3 decimal places. What does B equal? 34.604. And I will tell you this, if you round ahead of time and then plug the rounded number in your work and then keep rounding and plugging in, you're going to end up with the wrong answer. It may be close, but it's going to be wrong. So you don't want to round until the very, very end. Do you have to write all the big long numbers down on your paper? No, but you do have to leave them where? In your calculator and keep doing the work. All right, what's another way to type it in if you don't want to do square root answer? I'm going to clear it. Hit the square root key first, second square root, and then type everything in. What was it? 45 squared. Can you guys read off the rest to me? Plus 20 squared. Keep going.
Minus 2.
Times.
Parentheses 45, 20, and cosine 47.
And do we end up with the same answer? Yes? All right, your choice on how you plug it in. I showed you the first way because most kids do that. They just do the work first. But if you recognize, hey, I'm going to end up square root all the work, that's up to you on how you type it in. Got it? All right. We just found side B to be 34.604. We boxed that in because that is one of our answers that we found. Is angle C 90? No. Okay. At least we don't know that it is. We cannot assume. So what we have to find now is one of the angles. And I will tell you right off, it is a little more complicated and difficult to plug in the calculator. It takes a little more work. The calculator does all the hard work for us, but it does take a little more brain power to plug in. Does it matter which one I find first? No, I have side A that can work with it. I have side C. Do you want to just go in order and find side angle A? Okay. So how to find angle A. Before I go any further, what do we know we're going to end up using if we're looking for an angle? I heard somebody say it. What is it? Inverse key. Eventually we're going to use the inverse key if our angle is what is unknown. All right. So if I'm looking for angle A, without looking at your formulas, without looking here, we know we're going to use cosine of A. Do you agree? Equals, what's going to go on the far side? A squared, B squared, or C squared? A squared, because it matches with the angle you're looking for. Okay, what goes here? B squared plus C squared, because I'm no longer using A, minus 2BC. All right. Match it with the top. Does it match? Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and start to plug things in. What is A? 45 squared equals B. Yes, we have to work with that number. There's no way around it. But this time you can use the rounded, and that is okay. Plus C squared minus 2. And yes, I know it's going to look funny and messy, but it is what it is. Parentheses 34.604 times C times cosine of A. You should have only one unknown. Do you agree? Angle A is the only thing unknown, and everything else is what I'm looking for. Yes? Okay. The way I'm about to show you is not the only way to work it out. I'm going to show you the one that in the end requires less big, complicated numbers to work with. Let the calculator do the complicated work for you. So, one way that kids are tempted to do, and you're more than welcome to do it, is plug everything in. Like I said earlier, they plug everything in. They square that, they square that, they square that, add those together, multiply this, and then after that they kind of get stuck. So, what I'm going to do before the numbers get really big and messy is I'm going to work on isolating cosine A. Do you agree that is our goal? We're trying to get cosine A by itself so I can plug in the inverse in my calculator, right? If I'm trying to find A, I'm trying to isolate cosine of A. All right, so thinking back to Math 1, Math 2, when you learned how to isolate variables. I'm trying to get this by itself. I'm going to look up here where I have it, right here. If I'm trying to get cosine A by itself, what am I going to do first? Divide the 2BC or subtract the B squared and C squared? Do you agree this is what I'm going to subtract over first? I show you up here because it's a little easier to see it here than with all the numbers in down at the bottom. I guess I could use this piece here. Do you agree if I'm trying to get cosine A by itself, the first thing I should do is subtract these two B squared plus C squared? Yes or no? Okay, so that's what we're going to do first. We're going to move this over and this over, and it's going to give me 45 squared take away 34.604 squared take away 20 squared. All right, equals negative 2 times 34.604 times 20 times cosine of A. All right, so picturing up here, after we've taken the B squared C squared over, I'm left with this piece right here. What would I do to get cosine A by itself? Subtract, add, or divide? Divide. And what would we divide by? 2 or negative 2? Negative 2 times 34.604 times 20. Now I know some of you are like, oh, there's no way I'm going to remember this. You get the practice now, so when the test day comes, you are ready. Got it? And as I prepared you, this one is a little more complicated than sine of A, and finding an angle is a little more complicated than finding a side. But if we can remember move, move, and divide, the calculator will do the hard work for us. All right, divide -2, 34.604 times 20. All right, so here is what I'm going to finally end up with. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to put cosine of A on this side, only because I like it better that way. You don't have to. Cosine of A equals this big fraction, and I'm going to explain to you how to type it in your calculator. Let's write it down first. When you type it in, you're going to have to hit parentheses. You have to hit that first. 45 squared, take away 34.604 squared, take away 20 squared, close parentheses, and you have to close your parentheses. And then what key would you hit next? Before that, well, you're going to end up hitting your inverse cosine. That's going to be the first key you hit. Before I even address that, when you plug it in, you hit inverse cosine, parentheses, blah, 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 close parentheses, you have to close, then your division sign, and then you type in what? Parentheses, -2. Now, I'm putting this in parentheses only because there's decimals and I don't want to get it confused, but when you type it in your calculators, should you use parentheses or just multiplication symbols? I highly suggest you use multiplication symbols here, not parentheses, otherwise it's going to get really heavy and confusing. Okay, open, close, divide, open, times, 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 close, equals. All right, so let's practice. Do I just type it in, or do I hit inverse cosine first? If you don't hit it first, you can do it at the end using your answer key. Okay, let's turn the calculators. How do we know we're using the inverse key? How do we know we're using it, or we have to, because we're looking for an angle? And how do I get to it on my calculator? Second cos. All right, what's the first thing we type in? Open parentheses. Even though they gave me that one there, I still open parentheses, even though that one is there. Okay, and what do I type in? 45 squared, take away, no parentheses, take away what? 34.604 squared, take away 20 squared. Now before I hit divide, it's important that I hit what? Close parentheses, then divide. And before I start typing in numbers, it's important that I hit what? Open parentheses. And then don't forget your negative key. It's at the bottom. Don't use your minus key. Your negative key's down here. -2, not parentheses. We use times in the calculator. Times, the only reason I use parentheses is because there's decimals and it gets confusing. 34.604 times 20. The last parentheses, if you don't close, it's not a big deal, but you do need all the others. Anybody else get this? Okay. Angle A is 107.993. Okay. Did anybody not get this? Okay. I'm going to plug it in one more time. Before I do any of you think if you saw this, you would most likely type this in and forgot to have hit the inverse key? And is that okay if that happens? You would have or you wouldn't? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that way. All right, so what happens if we forget to hit the inverse key? Is that okay? It is. So let's go straight to typing. I'm going to hit clear. So if you didn't get it the first time, you're definitely doing it with me right now. If you did get it the first time and you want to try it this way, go for it. Or you can just watch. Okay, 45 squared. I'm not hitting the inverse key. Minus 34.604 squared minus what squared? And what did I forget? parentheses. You can delete it. I'm going to try to just hit insert and see if that works. Second insert parentheses, and there it is. Okay, 45 squared, parentheses, 45 squared minus 34.604 squared minus 20 squared, close parentheses, divide parentheses, -2, negatives at the bottom, times 34.604 times 20, close parentheses. And I get -.308897,226. You don't have to write all that down, but that's what I get. Yes or no? Did you guys get that? Yes. Yes, you may, but as you're walking out, pay attention, because you said you would most likely do it this way. So what do I do at this point to find inverse cos? Second cos answer, which is second negative sign at the bottom. And that's saying, hey, find the inverse cos of that last number in the calculator, and do we get the same answer? Okay, so you choose. It ends up the same work either way. Do all the work in inverse cos or inverse cos, and then plug it all in, your choice. All right? Are we good? Okay, so angle A is 107.993. And how do we find angle C? What do we do? Add and subtract from 180. Go ahead and do that now. Okay. Anybody have it? 25.007. All right, questions on any of this?
This is Torres.
Yes.
So when you have angle B and little b, can you use law of sines now?
Wonderful question. I was really hoping someone would ask, and I kept waiting, and I'm going to repeat what she just said. Okay, I was hoping this question came up, and if it didn't, I was thinking, should I say it, should I not? So I'm glad it was asked. She said, since we found angle B and side B, because earlier I said you need an angle and its side to use law of sines. Yes? She said, since we have these two, instead of doing all this crazy work, couldn't we just use law of sines? Wouldn't that be easier? Sine of 47 over side B equals sine of angle A over 45, and much easier to plug in. Yes. The problem with that is we have what's called the ambiguous case for law of sines. We'll learn that next week. The ambiguous case for law of sines. And right here I have the note. Law of sines cannot be used to find a what angle? Obtuse. Now, we don't know right now like how to tell an angle's obtuse or not. Is this angle obtuse? Yeah. So if we use law of sines, would we have ended up with the right answer? No, we would not. It would have been wrong. Got it? So you can use law of sines on an obtuse angle. You just cannot use it to find an obtuse angle. I know it sounds crazy, but there is that restriction. And since we don't know enough right now, we will learn more about it, but since we don't know enough right now to know whether it's obtuse or not, then don't use it on this assignment. On the one that we did, when we did do law of sines, they were purposely set up. These were purposely set up that none of them were coming out obtuse, that you had to use it to find. But this particular assignment will not be. These, obviously, angles will be coming out obtuse. So do not use law of sines here. Got it? Okay. Good question. Any others? Okay. Number 2. Little a equals 8, little b equals 12, and little c equals 17. All right. Can I use law of sines? I know I just said don't use it, but when you're taking the test, how can you know you're not using law of sines on this one? There's no corresponding angles. All sides, no corresponding angles. All right. Which means that it's going to be more work because finding the angles with law of cosines is the harder part. All right. Let's draw our triangle. A, B, C. Little a is 8. Little b is 12. Little c is 17. All right, I will start you off and then let you do some of the hard work on your own to see if you remember how to do it. I know. Where shall we start? Angle A, angle B, or angle C? Angle A comes first, go in order. All right, so if I'm using angle A, we know we're using law of cosines. It's going to be cosine of angle A. Try to work backwards without looking at your notes and see if you can come up with the formula. And I did not mean to put the equal sign there. Apologies. All right, what goes here on the far left side? A squared, B squared, or C squared? Okay, equals, is it A squared, B squared, or C squared? B squared plus C squared 2 BC cosine of A. All right. Now, if you wanted to, I'm going to pause here. If we know already we're looking for an angle, if you wanted to, could you solve this here before putting all the big numbers in? Or they're not even big in this case. So I'm going to leave that up to you. Do you want to get cosine A by itself right now with the letters? Or do you want to plug the numbers in first? What would be easier for you? Plug it in first, that's what you'd most likely do. All right, 8 squared, and these numbers are not too big, equals 12 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 12 times 17 times cosine of A. And that's where I'm going to leave you for now. I want you to practice getting everything over to the other side. Subtract and divide. That's the order. Subtract and divide. So check if you have this. 8 squared minus 12 squared minus 17 squared in parentheses. Divide by -2 times 12 times 17. Do you guys get that? Plug in your calculator, your choice. Plug this in first and then hit inverse cosine. Second answer. Or inverse cosine and then all this work. Do not forget your parentheses. All right, do we have it? Anyone have A yet? Angle A? 25.256? All right. Anybody not get it? If you're not getting it to work, you can, can you bring up your calculator really quick? Syntax error or domain error. Are you getting it? What are you typing in? Did you just clear it? Did I see you clear it? Okay, it's okay. Show me how you're typing it in. Okay, so it's right here. Are you hitting inverse first? Okay, so parentheses.
Oh, do I have to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's why.
Okay.
So I wasn't doing a double.
Okay. Okay. Guys, if you're hitting the inverse key first, are any of you doing the inverse key right from the very beginning? If you're doing the inverse key from the get-go, do you still need to put another open parentheses? Yes, you do. So you'll have a double one right there like that, and then you type everything in. If you're not doing the inverse key first, just one parenthesis, plug in, second parentheses, divide, parenthesis, plug in, close parentheses, equals.
I don't know what I did because I got 76.
Can you bring it up? Can you still bring it up and show me how you plugged it in? All right. If you've got it, I'm going to have you go ahead and find angle B, same way. Close parentheses. What negative did you use? The bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
-2 times 12 times 17. Oh, now
All right. If we're finding B, do you guys have little b squared? Yes? Little b squared equals what? A squared plus c squared minus 2ac times cosine of angle B. Guys, keep in mind, I said it wrong. How many of you feel like you have this formula already memorized? Good, good, good. Okay, does anybody have it already plugged in and ready to go? What did you guys get? Yes. 791. Anybody else get that? Yes, and then you can use the formula again or add and subtract. What do you get when you add and subtract? Sorry, say it again. 114.953. Any questions? Yes or no? Okay. Now, I will tell you this. Did we get to Heron's formula? We did not. Heron's formula is used to find area. It is used to find area. So, when you are doing today's assignments, when you get to area problems, when it says find the area of this triangle, what are you going to do for tonight? You're going to skip those for now. Don't cross them out completely. We will do those eventually. But for tonight, when you get to any area problems, will you be doing them? No, unless you look up the formula in the note in your textbook on your own, that's perfectly fine. Got it?